Hello all and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having an absolutely fantastic day, and sorry I haven't posted in forever. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life at the time. I was sick and then a lot of work issues came up, but anyways, today we're back and I have some crazy TikToks for you guys. And these TikToks are more related to UFO stories, encounters, and things of that nature. But anyways, guys, without further ado, let's get into the video.
It was cool. We had the fire going in the front room, and everything just seemed normal that night. And I'd taken the photographs, and I'd taken the 6 consecutive ones. And I'd walked inside, and I'd just come inside. Oh, I was only been there about maybe 5 minutes, and I heard an aeroplane pass overhead.
The airplane was Freddie's Cessna, just moments before Valentich's fateful UFO encounter. And later, when Roy had his film developed, along with the beautiful sunset, there was this important clue to Freddie's mysterious disappearance.
He got this object here on his 6th frame, and it was quite strange that he thought that at one instant there was something wrong with the camera, but then when he took back to the laboratory at Karduk, they assure him that that object there, it's nothing wrong with it. He's definitely got an object on it.
Computer analysis and enhancement of the UFO in Manifold's photograph reveals that the object was a solid, metallic, reflective sphere, approximately 70 feet in diameter. The fact that this picture was taken just minutes before Manifold heard Valentich's airplane suggests this may be the craft Freddie saw moments before he vanished without a trace. Air Corps officials, however, vehemently disagree.
Some of the experts said that he got disorientated and that he was flying upside down. But the Cessna 182 has got the petrol or gas, aviation gas, is in the wings, and it's gravity fed to the motor. So 49 seconds of flying upside down, the motor would have cut out. He was talking for 6.5 minutes. So that tells you he wasn't flying upside down, he wasn't disorientated.
Now we're all clear, 229, and there's no strange craft, right? Could be a miscalculation. Did you hear a vibratory?
Tower, heard nothing but my own sound.
Electrical phenomena, 229. Perhaps ball lightning can do strange things. Mirage is not uncommon with storm flare.
Storm flare far off to east tower. Not vapourial either. Holy, here he comes from the southwest. All shiny and metallic. My God, she comes at me!
Knowing Frederick, he wouldn't deviate rules and regulation. I'm quite certain that he would not go on that radio and inquire about to the air traffic controller what he's got around him, unless it was something really worthwhile to ask. Because to him, it wasn't a conventional aircraft, therefore something else, and could have been extraterrestrial. But the time will tell.
For 17 years, a family has searched for answers, and now they hope that Pine Gap will share its information concerning Freddie, the UFO in this photograph, and one of the most puzzling encounters in UFO.
So I found that interesting because I don't know if you guys seen it, but that picture, I didn't see a UFO in it. Not saying it's fake or anything. I'm just saying that looked like some like fog, but I could just not be seeing what they're seeing, right? Also, if you don't know, Pine Gap is a US and Australian joint venture. I think it said it was like, you know what? Let me look this up really quick. It says, yeah. Pine Gap is a joint United States-Australian satellite intelligence gathering and signals intelligence surveillance base and Australian Earth station, approximately 18 kilometers southwest of the town Alice Springs. So if you're in Australia and you know more about this Pine Gap facility and what's going on there, please let everyone else know. Thank you so much.
In 1963, in Covina, California, 17-year-old Linda Porter reported waking up aboard.
Just saying, this story is absolutely incredible. back in the day, I used to watch a lot of Ancient Aliens and everything UFO related and anything like this. I used to search for it, right? And this story is just so bizarre. If it's true, it's absolutely incredible. And also, this predates alien abductions, right? It predates any sort of, what am I saying here? Media sort of popularization of alien abductions even happening. She didn't even come out and say it till years later. So I hope you guys do enjoy this one.
An alien spacecraft. She described being led by a gray alien to a room where she encountered a tall, praying, mantis-like being. This event marked the beginning of multiple alien encounters that Porter experienced over the years. It wasn't until decades later, at the age of 45, that Porter reached out to investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, providing detailed accounts and drawings of her experiences. These drawings were later included in Howe's book, Glimpses of Other Realities, highlighting the peculiar nature of the mantis-like aliens, which are not commonly reported in alien abduction narratives. This encounter marked the beginning of what would become a series of mysterious interactions with these alien beings throughout Linda's teens and into her 20s. At the age of 45, Linda felt compelled to share her experiences with the outside world. She reached out to Linda Moulton Howe, an investigative journalist with a keen interest in the unexplained. Linda Porter's letter to Howe was the start of a significant exchange. The inclusion of a praying mantis-like alien in Linda's narrative added a layer of intrigue and peculiarity to her story. Such beings, described as tall, slender, and insect-like, with an intelligence that belies their frightening appearance, are not commonly reported in alien abduction scenarios. Experts have noted that while various types of aliens have been described by those claiming encounters, the mantis type remains one of the most peculiar and rare. These encounters with mantis-like beings and other aliens led Linda to believe.
If you've ever watched The Twilight Zone, Rod Serling, this sounds identical to his voice.
She was part of a larger, more profound experiment. The aliens, particularly the mantis type, seemed to be in a position of authority, possibly orchestrating the abductions. According to Linda, these beings were deeply interested in the human soul, or what she referred to as the animus. They seemed to be studying the essence of what makes us human, particularly the journey of the soul at the moment of death and its cycle of reincarnation. Linda's also recalled being shown 3 cylinders by the aliens, each containing a human in a state of suspended animation. This imagery, coupled with her ongoing interactions with these beings, brought her to a profound conclusion. These extraterrestrial entities, including the initially terrifying praying mantis, were not just visitors, but were deeply involved in the evolution of life on Earth. She posited that they had manipulated DNA in evolving primates, creating various models of life forms, and were continually monitoring the evolution of these creations. Linda Porter's encounters with these otherworldly beings, particularly the mantis-like aliens, opens a Pandora's box of questions about the existence of extraterrestrial life and their possible role in shaping the course of human evolution. Whether these accounts point to a deeper truth or are merely the product of an imaginative mind, they undeniably add a fascinating chapter to the annals of the unexplained and the mysterious.
So that's interesting. This happened in 1963. And if you didn't watch, or if you did watch my last video, then you're going to know what I'm going to say. But if you didn't go watch my last video, go watch it, because what I'm about to say relates to kind of what Bob Lazar said. Aliens came here, and it said in the blue folder files, which the government gave him to read, a bunch of stuff. But it said that the human race was genetically modified 65 times to get to where we are now. And you see this all over the place, where they say they've tinkered with our DNA. There was, like, in Egypt, there's like statues, or there's people with bird heads and like other crazy stuff, right? So was that real? Why would you just draw a human with like a bird head or freaking whatever, like, or Anubis? He's like a Jekyll or something like that, or some sort of dog. I'm just saying, like, that stuff I find interesting. And is there some truth to it? I don't know. But you guys let me know down below. You guys are always the final judge. I'm just spewing what I think is possible. Okay? Anyways.
Well, this is about Bonnie and Betty Hill from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Quite a bit happened, but briefly, they were coming home from Canada when they saw a red light.
Apparently, they were coming from Niagara Falls, Montreal. They're two. If I said that stupid, it's because I am. Niagara Falls is obviously near Buffalo. I assume they were in Montreal going to wherever they were going, or Niagara Falls going towards Buffalo back home. So just to let you know.
Light in the sky, and it seemed to be following them. And when they got home, they also noted the time. From this place they stopped to where they arrived home, their traveling time was 2 hours longer than normally it is. Then the Mrs. Hill started getting these peculiar dreams about being taken aboard a spacecraft and so forth. Then they went to this doctor. By means of hypnosis, he tried to extract from their minds exactly what had happened. She was told by the spacemen that they would not remember anything about this, and she insisted that she would. And they said, well, perhaps you will, but certainly your husband will never remember anything that's gone on. And by means of hypnosis, apparently they were able to break down that barrier, which apparently was a previous state of hypnosis.
Do you actually have any memories of this?
Yes.
Were they the same build as us?
No, they had large cranium and the chin was very small.
Did they stick a needle in Betty too?
Yes, they stuck a needle in Betty.
Were they like our needles, number one?
I didn't see the needle.
The remainder of Mrs. Hill's story.
I was taken into the first room, Barney into the second room.
So this is the same. This is just Betty Hill now, right? Recounting her story, what happened.
We were given, as the leader, as I call him, gave us testing. There were 11 beings, and for purposes of identification, I called one the leader, because he seemed to be in charge of the project of doing this testing, and he was the only one who spoke English. Then there was the examiner who did the testing, and then there were 9 others we called crew members. They stayed outside the room in the corridor. Our examinations were very much similar in that with both Barney and I, they checked our eyes, ears, nose, throat, took samples of our hair, fingernail, and they scraped our skin. With me, they touched my body with little points on wires. They said he was checking my nervous system. And then they attempted to insert a needle-like instrument in my navel. I objected that it would hurt, and he said it shouldn't hurt. When he did this, it caused a great deal of pain. He said it was a pregnancy.
That's like doctors, when you go to the doctors, like, it's only going to hurt a little bit. Now, that shit hurts a lot, man.
Pregnancy test. And I said, well, that's no pregnancy test here.
Betty Hill was right. In 1961, there was no pregnancy test like that here on Earth. But in the early 1970s, 2 techniques, amniocentesis and laparoscopy, have both come into wide usage. Both are techniques that provide information about pregnancy and bear a striking resemblance to the experience that Betty Hill described. It's difficult to imagine Betty Hill inventing medical techniques that did not yet exist on Earth unless her UFO experience actually occurred. When the alien leader saw the pain that Betty was experiencing, he put his hand on her head and the pain went away.
At this point, the examiner came running back into the room and opened my mouth and started tugging at my teeth. And I said to the leader, what is he doing? And he said, we're very, very puzzled. Why are Barney's teeth removable and yours are not? At that point, we left the craft and went back to the car, and we stood there by the car and we watched the craft leave. We saw it become surrounded by a fiery, revolving mass of some kind. We could see the UFO in the middle of this. And it lifted up, dipped down, went right straight up, and was gone. I received a copy of the radar report from Pease Air Force Base, where they had tracked an unidentified craft at 2:14 a.m. Just about the time we estimate that the UFO left. We went back and we found the spot where we were captured. It was not a fantasy. It was a real experience. And I believe that I have enough evidence to establish that.
I first met Betty and Barney Hill in November 1968. I've spent a great deal of time since then investigating their abduction. I've talked to Dr. Benjamin Simon about his hypnosis sessions.
You all know who this guy is. Okay, if you haven't watched Ancient Aliens, this guy is on pretty much every episode.
I've listened to the tapes of those sessions, and I've looked at Marjorie Fish's star map work in great depth. It seems clear to me that Betty and Barney Hill were taken on board a flying saucer in New Hampshire in 1961. The story must be taken at face value. It's true.
I think for a long, long time, I had the feeling that I had sort of lived through a tragedy in some way. And sometimes, even now, I still have this feeling. Because it's something that's haunting. It's something that's always on my mind, no matter where I go or what I do. Because I do lead a very active life and I have many, many interests. But always that's on the back of my mind. It's the last thing I think of when I go to bed at night, and it's the first thing I think of in the morning when I wake up. And I expect it'll probably be that way for the rest of my life.
Well, that's absolutely insane. But 1961, I mean, to come out and say that to everybody, that's pretty much career ending for you at that point. Because back then it was scrutinized and you were made fun of and called insane and da-da-da-da-da. But for her to come out and say they were checking for a pregnancy and they haven't even invented that yet, and then it became fact that they were using this technique to check for pregnancy and all these other sort of tests. That's insane. Okay. If you made that up, what are the chances? Okay. What are the chances of that happening? You know? Anyways, this next clip, take it with a grain of salt. I think his name is Emery Smith, if I'm correct, and he's supposed to be like this Men in Black, top secret government projects and all this. So let me know what you guys think about this anyways, but we'll play the clip and you let me know what you guys think. Because I thought this was absolutely insane if it was true. Really.
From being in the projects is a lot of these beings that came to the planet were actually clones of their own. The 3D ones that were actually maybe captured were actually clones of their own. They're like programmed life form beings. So they clone them, they program them.
They clone themselves, like
right?
Their
they
own
clone
body?
themselves, or they'll clone a similar being from them, and they'll program life form. We call them PLFs, and these PLFs are they're half cybernetic and they're half organic, and so they can move very fluid, like a person you would not even know, and when they crash or whatever, sometimes ETs, actually want to crash their vehicles here to help upgrade us so they can reverse engineer the stuff. And the bodies they find are actually just these PLFs that maybe.
See here, this is a problem for me with this story. You have Boyd Bushman, right? If you watched one of my previous videos before, Boyd Bushman says there's actually a heads-up display for aliens to fly their craft into Area 51. Now, back then, I don't know what he's talking, what year he doesn't say. But to intentionally crash a UFO so we can get upgraded, I don't know about that one.
It last a week or, up to a year with no substance. But they found that out the hard way when they were capturing these, and most of them were dead when they crashed. and they were putting them in alcohol or formaldehyde, and the body would instantly just dissolve because it's not like it's not like something we would catch here and put in our lab, an animal or a human hand or a brain or something that has a very strong tissue collagen structure. It was made up of a synthetic structure. So they started using saline and special types of water and plasmas.
So again, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. Do your own research on these topics. I'm just bringing up what I found that was interesting. If that's true, that's crazy. If they crash their own UFOs, I mean, if you're a highly advanced civilization and you could build this technology, I'm looking at it from a human perspective. We build cars. Do we crash them? All the time. Doing stupid stuff too. Can they crash them? Probably. I'm just saying accidents happen, but to intentionally crash them, it's very possible. Now I'm only giving you the information. You guys make the final judgment on this. Anyways, this next clip, insane. He talks, the same guy, Emery Smith, he talks about some crazy stuff happening, and I'm going to bring up a name. I think it's Bird. I can't remember the first name. Something Bird. So it's Richard Bird, right? And he was in the military. And why I'm bringing him up is because he was the first one to kind of say he flew to Antarctica. He found a giant hole in the center of the earth, right? And he got sucked in. And inside this hole was a bunch of aliens. And they showed him all this stuff. And I may be exaggerating the story a bit, but this was kind of like what I pulled from what I remember. But anyways, this guy, Emery Smith, kind of goes into detail of what he's seen there and what his trip was like in the center of the earth or wherever he says he is, right? So let's play the clip and you guys, again, chime in on this stuff because, again, I like to hear what you guys have to say about this stuff. Anyways, roll a clip.
Now, you and your team went into the inner earth. What was the mission and how did you get there?
Well, we used portal technology, and there'd be anywhere from 10 to 15 people in the group.
Once you get into the inner earth, how do you move around? Do you walk? Do you drive? What do you do?
Yeah, we basically hike the whole way. I mean, it's all on foot. All on foot. I mean, some of these places are so vast. They're many, many, many miles. I know that one of the longest ones I remember was about 6 miles in diameter.
That's pretty hefty.
Yeah. And so, yeah, everything's on foot. We do have assistance with special types of robots and other cybernetic type beings.
Did everybody have a specific purpose?
Yes, everyone had a specific purpose. Some people were teamed up too, as twos.
All right.
Everyone was always monitored. Everyone kind of always knew where everyone was, but you could actually walk a mile or two in these, these areas, these jungles and these lakes and things like that. And in some lakes, you'd have to be careful because they're very acidic. So you couldn't just go in there. You'd probably burn up.
Eat you away. Right?
Yeah. And melt right down.
I mean, what's the worst thing you've seen there that may have happened to one of your crew members? Did anybody die?
Only things I've seen are the videos from past adventurers that have went into these things.
So they showed you videos.
Oh yeah, we
some of it.
Many. Yeah, before even going into a mission, you get to see all the prior missions. It's part of their training, so you know what to expect. You know what trees not to touch, what animals not to touch, when to run.
What is then the most horrendous thing you've seen on video? What did you see?
Probably was the lake was pretty bad.
Somebody jumped in there?
Yeah.
You sound emotional here.
Well, they just touched it with their foot.
And lost the foot?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's just like
they were
ate it away?
Yeah, it was like acid. Yeah. Didn't make it. So.
No, you saw this on video or
just
you
on
there?
video?
That's terrifying. I'm just wondering if you were the first ones, right, to go to Middle Earth. What is this, Lord of the Rings? What if you were the first ones to go to the inner earth, right? You had no videotapes and shit to watch. You just marched down there and, you know, you wanted to take a dip in the water and you're gone. But I find that funny that that's the only thing that got them. I'm not an animal. Apparently trees are friggin' poisonous down there. But a lake got someone's foot. Is that bad? Of course. Could it have been worse? I don't know what kind of animals are down there, but I just find that funny that a freaking lake took someone's foot or whatever. A freaking puddle of acid. I'm just saying, that's crazy. Anyways.
Absolutely every single human being on the face of this planet gets abducted. Most of them do not remember. Most of the stories you hear about the bad aliens and the Dracos and the reptilians, it's all for confusion. They don't want us to figure it out.
What's your take on disclosure?
Emery, listen to me closely.
What the hell was that? Okay, this next clip I'm going to show you, and why I'm showing it to you. It's kind of graphic in the details. And why I'm showing it to you is basically there was an episode, I can't remember if it was like Ancient Aliens or some other UFO documentary, and what they were documenting about what they were trying to basically in this documentary or Ancient Aliens, they were saying there's beings called the Nordic Whites, these tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And they were basically saying these two girls probably were Nordics. And I'm just saying what I remember, okay? Don't take my word for it, research this and I'll do that. But I remember the episode slightly. And these two girls possess extraordinary strength. I mean, when you listen to this clip, you guys are going to be like, what the shit happened here? Okay. Like, I was even like, what? But the details are so graphic about the story. So just be warned that before you watch it. Okay. But anyways, that's why I'm showing you the clip. Okay. That's the main thing there. Long story short. So let's get into it. Huh?
Ursula and Sabina Eriksson ran through oncoming traffic on the M6 motorway in 2008. Just days later, one of them became a killer. When Sabina was released, she had nowhere to stay. She resorted to walking the streets of Stoke-on-Trent, carrying a plastic bag of her belongings and wearing a shirt that belonged to her sister. At around 7 p.m, two local men spotted Sabina on Christchurch Street in Fenton whilst they were walking their dog. One of the men was 54-year-old Glenn Hollingshead. Glenn was a self-employed welder, a qualified paramedic, and a former RAF airman. Alongside him was his friend, Peter Malloy. Sabina asked Glenn and Peter if she could stroke their dog, before striking up a friendly conversation. During the chat, she asked if there were any local bed and breakfasts or hotels in the area, and explained that she was looking for her sister, who was in hospital. Glenn, being the helpful person that he was, offered to take Sabina back to his home to rest, whilst he assisted her in finding her twin sister. Sabina agreed, and the three of them headed to Glenn's. Back at the house, Peter started to notice that Sabina was being odd. She was continuously peeking through the curtains, looking up and down the street as if someone was following her. In addition to this, she would offer both Glenn and Peter cigarettes, but would quickly snatch them back before they were lit, claiming that they could be poisoned, even though she was smoking them herself. Both Glenn and Peter also had no idea that Sabina had just been discharged from hospital. She never once acted like she'd just been hit by a car, and never complained of being in any pain. Later that evening...
Hit by a car? Okay, if you gotta watch this story, okay? Because they weren't hit by a car. They were hit by an 18-wheeler with a freaking trailer and survived, okay?
Peter left to go back to his own home and left Glenn and Sabina alone. The next morning, Glenn continued to help Sabina search for Ursula. He called multiple local hospitals and even recruited his brother to help with the search. Sabina, once again, seemed normal and calm on that morning, but things soon drastically changed. At 7:40 p.m, Glenn left the house briefly to ask a neighbour if he could have some tea bags. After this, he went inside to resume cooking his meal, but staggered outside just a minute later, bleeding profusely. Glenn shouted, "She stabbed me," before collapsing to the ground. He uttered the words, "Look after my dog for me," before he succumbed to his injuries. Glenn Hollingshead had been 5 times with a kitchen by Sabina Eriksson. The neighbour hurriedly dialed 999 and Sabina fled Glenn's house carrying a hammer. It wasn't long before a passing motorist became alerted by her behaviour. Sabina was periodically hitting herself over the head with a hammer, and the motorist made an attempt to stop this from happening. He tackled Sabina and tried to get the hammer off her, but whilst they were wrestling, Sabina pulled a roof tile from out of her pocket and hit the man over the head with it. Whilst he was stunned from the blow, Sabina started running once again, but the authorities were not far behind. The chase finally came to an end at Heron Cross, where Sabina jumped from a 40-foot high bridge onto the A50. The impact of the fall caused both of her ankles to be broken, and her skull was fractured.
40 foot. And she's freaking broke her ankles. Okay? I mean, look. You go 40 feet up and you look down. I bet 99% of you would be like, that's too high. Like, come on. Like, that's insane, this girl. Where's she getting all this strength? By the way, she threw herself in front of the 18-wheeler, just to let you know.
Medics rushed her to hospital to be treated for her injuries. On June 6, 2008, Sabina Eriksson was arrested whilst recovering from her injuries at the University Hospital of North Staffordshire. On September 11th, she was discharged and taken into custody while still in a wheelchair, where she was charged with the murder of Glenn Hollinshead. Ursula was also released from hospital in September of 2008. She moved back.
By the way, this picture here, okay, if you're looking at the story, keep pausing. I just want to get all the information out. These two girls broke free from the police officer. Okay, this is an actual picture of them. Went onto the freeway, jumped in front of the 18-wheeler, and lived. Crazy? I think so.
Back to Sweden temporarily, but then relocated once again to the US without further incident. On September 1st, 2009, Sabina's trial began. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. During her interrogation, she did not explain her actions and answered no comment to most questions. She also offered no explanation in court. The defense counsel claimed that Sabina was a secondary sufferer of folie à deux, a French phrase meaning the madness of two. This is also known as shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. It was argued that Sabina had been suffering delusions and hallucinations that had been transmitted to her from her sister Ursula, who they believed was the primary sufferer of the condition. The court also heard that Sabina suffered from a rare psychiatric disorder that made her hear unintelligible voices, and there was an additional theory that she may have been suffering from acute polymorphic delusional disorder. A year later, Sabina's plea was accepted by the court. The serious nature of her mental illnesses led the judge to believe that Sabina had very low culpability for the crime, and she was therefore sentenced to 5 years in prison. She was ordered to serve her time at HM Prison Bronzefield. Sabina had already spent 439 days in custody before her sentencing, meaning that by 2011, she was eligible for parole. It was reported that in 2018, Ursula Eriksson was a member of Sacred Heart Church in Bellevue in Washington. Sabina Eriksson was granted parole in 2011 and returned to Sweden after her release. Her whereabouts today are unknown.
So again, that's the Sabina twins. Typing in on YouTube, and you'll get the full-fledged story. And like I said, the reason why I showed that is this is not a murder documentary or murder reaction video. It's just I remember these two girls back in the day on one of those shows, and they were saying because of their strength, they were able to escape a freaking police officer's grip, jump in front of a damn semi truck, survive, jump off a bridge, survive, and apparently bang yourself over the head with a hammer and live. I'm just saying they have a condition, apparently, whatever it is, the condition of two. I thought that was an absolutely insane story. But anyways, guys, the next clip, I promise you, is alien related. Okay. You may have heard of him. Billy Meyer. This one, I'll tell you right now, I am a very big skeptic of this whole topic, Billy Meyer, even though it's very fascinating. And there's something interesting coming up that I didn't think you would know. You know those posters, I want to believe, with the UFO flying in the background? Guess where that came from? Yep. You guessed it. Billy Meyer took the photo. And it's now on posters everywhere in your room. Anyways, let's get into the clip.
On March 18, 1975, a Swiss farmer by the name of Billy Meyer was reportedly visited by extraterrestrial beings. He claimed to have been visited by a group of beings from the Pleiades star cluster, and that he captured photographic evidence of their presence. One of the resulting images, allegedly taken by Meyer, depicts a saucer-shaped craft hovering above a hilly, forested area of Switzerland. This image quickly gained notoriety and became one of the most iconic images in the field of ufology. Despite the widespread attention that Meyer's images have garnered, many skeptics dismiss his claims as nothing more than hoaxes, while others argue their authenticity. However, the enduring popularity of Meyer's 1975 image cannot be denied. It has been featured in countless books, documentaries, and even on the iconic I Want to Believe poster for the hit TV series The X-Files. Much like any UFO photo, the authenticity of Meyer's imagery has been long debated for decades. Throughout his life, he made several claims of regular communication with extraterrestrial civilizations. He also presented many photos to prove it. An auction listing for Meyer's original images states, from the 1960s to the early 1980s, Meyer took 1,476 photos and 34 films, of which about 600 photos and 9 films were of UFOs. Whether you believe in the authenticity of the 1975 Billy Meyer UFO photo or not, there is no denying its place in popular culture. It continues to captivate and mystify people to this day, and is considered one of the most iconic UFO photos in the world.
So that's Billy Meyer, and I'm just going to continue with the Billy Meyer content right now because I find this fascinating as hell, considering some of this. If you believe in it, cool, that's cool. Great, I wish you no harm, but these photos, okay, that I'm about to show you, this is a clip of some of the photos that he took with his camera and claiming he's taken photos of dinosaurs back in the whatever, the dinosaur era, right? I don't know. My mind's blank today. Jurassic era, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, here are some photos that he took that he claims he went back in time and he was the only one allowed to take photos on these ships and da-da-da-da. Anyways, I'll roll the clip.
First flight around our solar system. Here's a picture of Mars. By the way, this is not a professional tape. As you can see, these pictures are in a picture album, and I've just got my camcorder out, and Wendell and I are flipping through the pictures. So this is not a produced tape for you to look at. So it'll probably never be on the market, but at least you get a chance to see some of these pictures. This is Mars just from a different direction with the sun very bright on it. Now, here is Mars, but here's one of these satellites. It's in orbit around Mars, made on Earth, unannounced, and is in orbit. This is the spring of 1976, and this device is in orbit around Mars. I don't know exactly who made it or who put it up there. Here's another one. This is Mars again, and here's the light panels, solar panels, and the satellite equipment in orbit around Mars again. This is a different one. This is a dust storm on Mars. Billy wanted to get close and try to take pictures of artifacts. You've all heard about some of the Sedona Plaza on Mars, about the face on Mars that Richard Hoagland and other people have been looking into. Billy published a paper back in the 70s talking about that. There was a race of people lived on Mars. They had a terrible catastrophe about 186,000 years back. At the time, there was about 40 million people killed on Mars, and they're all gone now, of course. So there were societies there, and we will find quite a few remains of their civilization once we get up there. Here he's on board one of their large motherships. This is the side or the edge of a saucer that was parked inside as he was walking by it. Here's Jupiter. Here's the mothership in orbit. They're flying into it to go aboard. It was 17 miles high and about 10 miles in diameter. He spent 3 days on it. They went to different places in our galaxy to show him around. This was the craft that was right in front of them as they were flying into it. He took a picture of that one. Here,
I just want to reverse for a second because here's where this skepticism starts with me. Now, if we go back just a little bit here, and I'll play it. Hold on. Where is it?
Miles in diameter. He spent 3 days on it. They went to different places in our galaxy to show him around. This was the craft that was right in front of him as they were flying into it. He took a
So if you obviously I'll enlarge this for you, but you see this woman right here, and there's a girl right beside her. Okay, now this. I'm not a genius here, but this was found out by someone else. He claimed these two girls were the Palladians that came here to see him, which was later found out it was a music video. And I'll put a short clip of the music video because I'm pretty sure it's copyrighted and all that nonsense. So it's going to be muted, but I'll show you these two girls and I'll show you a clearer picture of these two girls that he claims he's encountered. Okay? Just saying.
a picture of that one. Here again is back at Mars. These aren't in any particular order. Here's another object in orbit around Mars, and look, here's an American flag on it. So there's a couple of things that they put up there that the military's put up that we don't know about. This is a picture of Billy in a suit. He's on a prehistoric planet to see the dinosaurs. He's got a breathing apparatus on. This is a Pleiadian man, and they've stepped outside of the ship so he can see the animal life on this prehistoric world. Got his picture taken too. That's pretty good. This jumps back here to, remember the Apollo-Soyuz hookup, us and the Russians back in '76? Billy asked him if he could go up and watch it. They said, okay. They took him up. There's several pictures here of the Apollo-Soyuz hooking up with Earth in the background. Some of the wildest pictures he's got. I mean, just look at the vantage point. The planet's in the background. How else would you get this picture unless you were up there at that particular vantage point? Not a lot of people have that in their photo albums, you know. You can imagine the people at NASA would crack up, you know. They'd probably find it a little hard to believe at first, but they don't have pictures like this. Here it is when it's just hooked up. There's Earth in the background, and here's the two capsules coming together. This is the top of the mothership. There's windows, but there was nobody in the windows as they came into it. We really missed out here. Billy shot, he said, 3 or 4 rolls of film inside the mothership, talking to people and going up and down the halls and so forth. He lost all of the pictures. They were all stolen from him. We've only got 2 or 3 of them left, and they're really practically nothing. This is a prehistoric Earth. They're back in time. That's Earth in the background. That's a moon in front of Earth, and he's looking over the surface of another moon. At that point, they told him there were 2 moons in orbit around planet Earth. We think we're about 60 million years back. Here's another picture over the surface. Neither one of those moons is currently the moon that's in orbit now. The moon that's in our orbit now, they say, has only been there around 5 million years. Look at this one. This is another piece of equipment in orbit around Mars, and it's huge. It's like a space station, and it's in orbit around the planet. It's also from Earth. We haven't heard anything about that, have we? Here's the dinosaur pictures. Billy's back inside the ship, and there's a viewing screen in the craft, and he says he's taking these pictures. Here's our first dino.
Oh, man, I know it's long, guys, but, like, just listen to the amount of... So he's showing pictures and all this, and I believe someone went through a bunch of them. The dinosaur one is from actually a child's book, right? If any of you also know about this story, you can comment down below if I'm missing anything here, but I believe this picture, he, like, went up to a... I'm not saying... I'm just saying what I know, right? What I found out. So don't get mad at me, but... Apparently, this is from a child's book. If I find it, I'll put it in the video for you. But I know I definitely have those 2 girls there, side by side, right? So
he's got kind of gold brown skin, got large hind legs, short forelegs, and a head that looks kind of amphibian, like a vegetarian type.
Vegetarian.
Here's the second one. There's a bird here apparently dropping some food or something. Is that Charles? Charles dropped his food. This one's pretty hard to see. Here's the head of some sort of creature crashing through some bushes here. It's hard to tell. I know it's probably hard to see these anyway from back there, but just the idea that someone could actually go back in time just really gets my brain going. There's a bird. There's these eyes, some pretty nasty looking teeth. And the last picture after this one is the strangest of all. It's a plant that has an insect head. Billy calls it a plantum. They were trying to explain to him how the evolution of different life forms goes. How, for instance, here's a plant life when the plants are the food kingdom of the world. When the plants evolve to a certain level of evolution, then these lower order forms, here's a small head, and this head is part of that plant. There's these two little eyes. It's an insect, the beginning of insect life on the planet when the food kingdom has evolved high enough. There are 7 different stages, they say, of spiritual energies or creational energies on a planet that create the many different kinds of life forms. There's a transition from one kind to the next. Ours is the 7th or the last one. We have to wait until the animal kingdom has raised the evolution of the body material high enough so our cycles can start.
So, whether you believe that or not, very interesting stuff. If you want to watch the full documentary on Billy Meyer and all the crazy, I mean, maybe there's some truth to it because, like in my last video, sorry, I keep referring to it, but there was a project called Project Looking Glass that Bob Lazar talked about, which he didn't go into the details of it, but basically was to go back into time or look back into time. And if you can manipulate gravity, that's something you can do. So I'm just saying, man, if that's all true, insane. But you can't deny the fact of the 2 women I just showed you. So just saying.
I was excited when they offered to give me one. And look, if you're not afraid of the truth and you're not afraid to be scrutinized, why be afraid of a polygraph? So I was excited about it. I'm glad we finally got that underway. And it was administered by someone who has decades of experience and has administered over 20,000 polygraph exams. So yeah, I think it was an excellent day.
My name is Brian Hoff. I'm a polygraph examiner. So Randy, go ahead and relax. All right. So Randy, go ahead and relax, remain still. We'll begin in just a moment. And the test is beginning. Are you now in Colorado?
Yes.
Are you currently a ranking member of the USMCSS?
Yes.
During your entire lifetime, have you ever violated any rules or regulations?
No.
Regarding your involvement in the USMCSS, do you intend to answer each of my questions truthfully?
Yes.
Have you ever killed an extraterrestrial being?
Yes.
Have you ever said anything out of anger that you later regretted?
No.
Have you ever physically been to a planet other than Earth?
Yes.
Have you ever been deployed on a 20 and back program?
Yes.
The test is ending. Remain still. So based on Mr. Kramer's polygraph examination results, there are no indications that Mr. Kramer was actively attempting to deceive me or the polygraph examination. If you look right here, these 2 green spots right here and right here, those are where I asked him to lie to me directly and where I knew that what he had said was a lie. These little red parts right here, this one and this one, those are where I asked him about being off-world and about whether or not he had done a 20 and back program. From my perspective, Mr. Kramer does believe that he is telling the truth.
What a validating moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you.
Absolutely. Well, I've always known I've been telling the truth, but I understand that not everybody else understands that. So I'm glad to have had the test now.
People now are going to have to look at this and they're going to say, yeah, you can fake a polygraph. That's very difficult to do.
I think people who say that don't understand polygraph exams, have never taken one or tried to understand what the countermeasures are. I felt that the explanation that was given to me by the test givers was incredibly detailed about what information that they're reading, how this is something that's not in your conscious brain. It's not guilt oriented. It's lower cerebellum, amygdala responses, capillary expansion, blood pressure, sweat glands, things that you can't consciously control. They're part of the autonomic system.
Well, those videos were absolutely insane, and I hope you guys did enjoy them. Just remember, I wanted to do something different to kind of open the dialogue of just some CGI UFO ship, you know, which I see everywhere on TikTok. I wanted to kind of dive in deep to the stories that you may have heard of, may have not have heard of, to give you all the information, right, to kind of dive into this subject a little deeper with some of these crafts and some of the aliens that are out there and all that sort of stuff. So I hope you guys did enjoy it. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so very much for watching the video, and I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and we'll see you soon. Take care and peace.